this commission and all of you are helping to ensure that the fundamentals of democracy are alive and well here in San Mateo County. As you know, San Mateo County is divided into 5 districts. Voters in each district elect a member to the San Mateo County Board of Supervisors. Our work today will help determine which neighborhoods, which communities group together in those 5 districts. So why is that important? 1, how and where districts are drawn can shape communities' ability to elect representatives of their choice. 2, districts substantially equal in population help to ensure residents have equal access to representation. 3, revisions to our existing district boundaries have lasting impact. They will remain in effect for the next decade. So it's very important to remember that members of the Board of Supervisors are full-time elected officials who oversee a $3 billion annual budget. Let me repeat that. They oversee a $3 billion annual budget. This budget funds programs that includes social services, public health, protection, housing programs, roads and infrastructures, county parks, elections, and public safety. The Board of Supervisors acts as a primary local government for residents who live in unincorporated areas also. Board members additionally serve on numerous regional agencies, which sets policy for transportation, environmental protection, and other important areas. It's a very important role in our county. So we look forward to hearing from all of you today about what you consider your community and where you might draw the lines and help us define districts for the next decade. Again, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Chair Lawrence.
And I'll ask the clerk for roll call.
Yeah, I say, Mr. Clerk, before we proceed to the roll call on the formal portion of the agenda, I just want to confirm that we have a quorum present.
Let me check. Yes, we do. I'm going to take a quick roll call now. I just want to make sure there aren't any other commissioners on the attendee side. Don't see any. Okay.
Just a point of information, what is quorum set to for our meetings?
8.
8.
Yes. Okay. Commissioner Bandar-Pali? Okay, she is absent. Commissioner Chan?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Monzon Ruiz?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Barber? Is absent. Commissioner Salander?
I'm here.
Thank you. Commissioner Bezos? Is absent. Commissioner Blatzo is absent. Commissioner Albert?
Here.
Thank you. Commissioner Dinan? Okay, is absent. Commissioner Espinoza?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis?
Present.
Thank you. Commissioner Chow? I did see Commissioner Chow come in. Commissioner Chow, you probably have to unmute yourself. You are on unmute, Mr. Chow. So Brian, should I make her present? I do see her in the panelist side.
I do want to make sure she can actually participate.
Right. Commissioner Chow, can you please speak? Okay, I'm gonna mark Commissioner Chow absent. I cannot hear you. Please raise your hand when you're able to speak. Commissioner Guerrero? Commissioner Guerrero did mention that he was going to participate via phone, and he did provide me his number. I don't see that phone under the attendees side yet, so I'm going to mark him absent. Commissioner Romero?
Present.
Okay, thank you. And Chair Lawrence.
Here.
Okay, let me just confirm now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep, we have a quorum, so please proceed.
Great. Oh, so item 2, we have the agenda before us. I'd like to ask for a motion to accept that agenda.
Motion to approve.
I second.
Do we need to do a roll call vote? Let's do roll call.
The second was by Commissioner Romero.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So let me take a quick roll call. Commissioner Bondrapali is absent. Commissioner Chan.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Monzon Ruiz.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Barber is absent. Commissioner Salander.
Yes.
Thank you. Commissioner Bezos is absent. Commissioner Betso is absent. Commissioner Albert.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Dinan is absent. Commissioner Espinoza.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Chow. Commissioner Chow, I still can't hear you, so you might have to change.
Suki, she texted me. This is Commissioner Priscilla or Romero. And she said she's trying to unmute, but she's having some technical difficulties.
Right.
She has to she's logging back on.
Okay. So, all right. So for now, I'm still marking her absent. Commissioner Guerrero is absent. Commissioner Romero.
Yes.
Thank you. And then Chair Lawrence.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. Please proceed.
So the motion passes. Great.
That's correct. Yes.
Our next item is item 3, discussion of format led by our county council.
Hi, thank you, Chair Lawrence. Good morning, everyone. This will be a short item. We just wanted to kind of introduce the process and kind of let you all know how it's going to work going forward for these public hearings. So as you see on the agenda, Ms. Park is going to give a presentation similar to the one that you all received last week. This will be for the benefit of the members of the public that are present and participating. After her presentation, we will move to open the public hearing. So Chair Lawrence, we'll make sure we have that motion. A bit of process, but we'll have to take the roll call vote as we've been doing. We will formally open the public hearing and we'll elicit testimony from the members of the public regarding communities of interest and kind of their thoughts on the district drawing process. Once those comments are all received, we will then move to formally close the public hearing. So I would say if there are any commissioner questions or thoughts after the presentation, I would recommend that we kind of address those issues before actually opening the public hearing. And then once we kind of handle those questions and comments, we can move to the formal hearing process. And if folks have questions along the way, please feel free to reach out. We decided it would be a helpful item just to kind of walk through that process. And this is our first meeting, and kind of as we do more and more of these, I'm sure it'll go smoother. But again, if you have questions, concerns, feel free to reach out at any point. And that concludes my brief presentation.
Thank you, Brian. So let's move to item 4, the pre-mapping, the discussion.
Chair Lawrence, let me just double check with Ms. Chow if she can participate now. Commissioner Chow, can you just make sure you're on?
Good morning. So sorry, everyone. I have some
Perfect.
technical difficulty. Okay, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Sure. Ms. Parks, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you all for being here. My name is Kristen Parks. I am a consultant with National Demographics, and we are the demography team hired by the county to help with the map drawing process. So I'm going to share my screen to give you a brief overview of the redistricting process. And then I will demo for you briefly the online mapping tools. So starting with the current district map, as we heard from Chair Lawrence, San Mateo County is divided into 5 supervisorial districts. And every 10 years, when the census is completed, every jurisdiction across the country that elects their representatives by district has to revisit those lines and possibly redraw them. So our timeline this year is very compressed because of delays with the US Census Bureau's processing of census data. So what you see in this timeline is that it was only August 12th that we received our official census data. And we're still waiting for September 20th when California will release the official California census redistricting data, which is simply a readjustment that California is doing for the first time this year to take all of the state prisoners and reallocate them back to their last known address. So we actually can't begin drawing any maps until after we have this California data. We're also working with a December 15th deadline, which means that our work and the commission's work has to proceed very, very quickly. So that is why we are currently having a workshop in each of the supervisorial districts, though they're virtual. And the commission will be then meeting to review maps and make a recommendation to the board. Ultimately, before this December 15th deadline, the Board of Supervisors will need to vote to approve the final district map. So I encourage everyone to visit the SMC District Lines website, where you can find a lot more information, including the full schedule of all meetings and public hearings. So what I'm showing you on this slide is the non-adjusted data, meaning we're still waiting for that September 20th release of California redistricting data, but I did want to show you the current or the 2020 population for each of the 5 districts, so you know what we're working with here. As we embark on our process of redrawing district lines, we're going to aim for an ideal district size of about 152,888 people. So that's the ideal size that we want for each district, because for the purposes of fairness, each supervisor should represent relatively the same number of people. So what you also see on this table is the deviation that each current district has from that ideal size. We sum up all of the deviations across all 5 districts, and that is where we get this number in red, 9.73%. We are aiming to bring that total deviation down lower than 9.73% to make the 5 districts more population balanced. What you also see here is some data on citizen voting age population. As you're all probably aware, the number of voting age citizens is certainly lower than the total population for the county, but these are the statistics and data points that we look at when we are ensuring compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act. So based on that population data, we see that some of the current districts are overpopulated and will need to probably give up some of their population. So that's districts 2 and 3. And that other districts, districts 1, 4, and 5, were slightly underpopulated relative to that ideal district size and may need to gain population. So this is just to give you a foundation for what you're going to think about when you as members of the public participate in this process, as well as the commissioners. So when we sit down to draw maps, and this is something that we want to encourage all of the public to feel empowered to do, we have to consider certain legal criteria. First and foremost is federal law. Federal law is always supreme. And I briefly mentioned equal population, and that what that means is that each of the 5 districts should be relatively equal in population size. That's actually required by the federal government. We also need to make sure we are not diluting or discriminating against any protected class of voters. That is to ensure compliance with the Federal Voting Rights Act. And although we are going to be considering race and ethnicity to ensure that compliance, we also need to make sure that we are not drawing any district boundaries solely on the basis of race. That would be racial gerrymandering. So because we're in the state of California and the state has passed a new law called the Fair Maps Act, what that means for us is that the state has an extensive list of criteria that we are required to consider when drawing our district lines. So there's 5 criteria here, and I've highlighted number 2 because that's the one that our focus is on today. But very quickly, just to run through these, the first thing California law requires us to consider is geographic contiguity. This has to do with the shape of the district, and it simply says that our districts must be contiguous, meaning that our districts must all be connected. And if the one district is only connected to another part of it through one point, that is considered not contiguous. So the shape needs to be all one connected district with no separated island. So second, we want to minimize the division of neighborhoods and communities of interest, which I'll talk more about in just a second. But do you hear my cat in the background? Give me 1 second. Get out of here.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
I mean, she could be jumping in front of the screen, but instead she was just meowing. So, okay, she's gone now. All right. So we're going to minimize the division of neighborhoods and communities of interest. Under state law, we also need to minimize the division of cities and CDPs, which is census designated places. So what that means is when we're drawing those district boundaries, we don't want to split neighborhoods, communities of interest, cities, or places to the extent practicable. So that's what we're going to be aiming for. It doesn't mean we can't ever do it, but just that we want to minimize it. 4, we need to create easily identifiable boundaries, just that they're logical so that the residents can understand which district they're in. We need to create compact districts. What compactness means is also, you can think about this sort of in the sense of the shape of the district. You don't want to draw the lines in such a way that you're drawing all the way around and avoiding one population that's close to your district to take in a farther away population. That is last on the list. California law also gives us a prohibition that we cannot draw lines with the intention of favoring or discriminating against a political party. So we have a lot of legal criteria that we have to consider in this process. But again, today we're focusing on what the public can testify to in terms of communities of interest in neighborhoods. There are other goals that we can consider in redistricting, and traditionally we have considered some other goals. I just want to point out that we need to consider those only after we have met the criteria set out by federal law and state law. So that's a lot, but we will be returning to this throughout the process. And today we're going to focus in on communities of interest. So the community of interest is defined under California Elections Code as a population of people that shares some common social or economic interests. And this is a population that is going to benefit from being included in one single supervisorial district, so that that community has a chance to be fairly and effectively represented. When we're talking about districts, we're always thinking about representation. A district is represented by a supervisor. Another way to think about what a district is, right, because these districts are fairly large, is that a district is going to be a collection of communities and neighborhoods. So we have to think about which communities and neighborhoods will be grouped together in each district. So for members of the public, what defines your community? How can you articulate that and bring that to this process? Well, there are many ways that you can define your community. You can think about shared experiences, shared language, culture, history, shared issues or concerns that you might bring to the Board of Supervisors. And then you also want to think about what the geographic boundaries of that community are, keeping in mind that the cities have clearly defined boundaries, neighborhoods sometimes do. What's unique about communities of interest is that they can overlap with each other, and those boundaries are things that may not already be captured in any way at the county level. And that's why we ask the public to come forward and give voice to their community and say, here's who we are and here's where we are in the county. And ultimately, this is all going back to representation. Would my community be best represented if it were contained within a single district with one supervisor, as opposed to being split into one or more districts? So how can the public bring this testimony to us? Well, certainly by making public comment, by sending letters and emails, etc. But we also have a set of public mapping tools that we are making available so that you can draw your community of interest. You can draw what you think your ideal supervisorial district would look like, or if you'd like to go further and draw a county-wide map of what you propose all 5 districts to look like, that is also an option for you. So these tools are available online on the website at San Mateo County districtlines.org. I'm going to briefly show you the online tools, but I also want to let you know that for members of the public who don't have access to a computer or the internet, or would prefer to draw maps on paper, that we will be releasing a paper tool so that you can draw districts and draw communities of interest on a paper map. But we are waiting for that September 20th official data from the state before we release that paper tool. So I'm going to jump over to the website now, San Mateo districtlines.org, and I'm going to show you how you get to these online mapping tools. So if you're looking at the website, there's a lot of great information here. I'm going to navigate to the Draw a Map tab. And you are going to see the District R mapping tool at the top, and below it, the Maptitude online mapping tool. Both of these tools are accompanied by short introductory tutorial videos that you can watch for step-by-step instructions on how to use them. If you click on the link, either in the title or here, you can get to the tool. I already have District R open here. And you're going to see this page that says Tag San Mateo County. What's cool about this is that you can start drawing by clicking on the purple button or the red button, or you can see what people have already submitted. And so I was excited to see that we do have a community of interest map that has been submitted. So if you want to see what someone else has created and shared, you can click on that. And if I click on this, just so I can show you, because this is a great example of how you can define a community of interest, you see that this map has been drawn And the community of interest is highlighted here in blue. It's named San Mateo County Coastside. And then there's a written description here that talks about why this community of interest should be considered in the redistricting process. So this is a great example of what we're asking from the public, that you could draw your community of interest and accompany it with some explanation. It doesn't have to be this long, right? It could be just a couple sentences, but this is a great example. So how do you do that? Well, you would click on this red button, identify a community built of blocks. And what this will do will take us to the tool. Now, I want to point out that this tool is created only in English, but if you do have a Google Translate tool on, if you're using Google Chrome and you're using Google Translate, you can actually translate the page, right? So I just translated it into Spanish, and you can see that actually everything here does translate. How do I undo that? Now I don't want to translate it. Maybe if I refresh it. Perfect. Okay, now we're back in English. So you see here, blue is going to be the color for the community that we're creating. The way that we create this community is by using a paintbrush. So we can zoom in. And if we use this panning tool, we can grab and drag our map. Okay. So dragging our way up to what is currently District 1. And with the paintbrush, we can increase the size of it. And if you hover over, you see what will be selected when you click. So you can select large areas, or you can shrink that brush size down just to one census block, and you're actually going to be able to pick up block by block. Okay, so let's say we want to create a community of interest that is perhaps around the airport. So I can simply click on the area, or I can click and drag to select area. Okay. If I make a mistake, I can click on the eraser, and similarly, I can change the size of it. I can click, or I can click and drag to erase. So selecting some areas here, try to fill in the little holes that I've missed. So we have something that looks like a community. And if you're, you see these blocks that are empty in here, you really have to shrink the brush size down and then just click on those. All right. So I can name this community Demo Airport Community. I can give it a description of, why I think that this is a community that shouldn't be divided, a community that should be kept in one district. I can look at, under this data layers tab, I can look at, for instance, the current district boundaries so that I can see how they relate to the community that I've drawn. So those will populate there. You can also look at population, though I will say that the population data here in District R is not the most recent census data, so it will be a little bit different than what I showed you in the PowerPoint. But you can see that approximately what I've selected in this blue community is approximately 66,000 people, which is a smaller piece of the total county. So how would I submit this after I have selected the area I want to select? I've named it and described it. If I want to submit this to be a part of the official public record as something that's going to be considered for redistricting, I click on Save. and that automatically submits it on the back end. Now, if you want to share it so that it shows up on the website publicly for other people to see, you're going to select Share Now and click Share to Gallery. You can also save it as a work in progress. Instead of sharing it now, if perhaps you're not finished, you want to come back to it later, and you can click Save as Draft. Now, you don't have to log in or create an account or anything. When you come back to the website, you will be able to access the work in progress map. You could also, if you want to share it or email it with a friend, there is a link that is created here. So this is, in my opinion, one of the easier tools to work with for redistricting, and particularly this is a good tool to draw your community of interest and submit testimony on it. So I'm going to show you the second tool, and then I will pause for questions so that you can ask questions about these tools. So going back to the Draw a Map portion of the website, the second tool is Maptitude. You can get to it here. I already have it open. Maptitude, it looks like actually we do have some questions. So if it's all right with the chair, maybe we can, I see at least one commissioner has a hand raised.
Yes, please proceed.
Yeah, it's just a clarification. So has District R been updated with the latest census data release? Not yet. Okay, just want to make sure that was correct. And that's supposed to happen later this month, correct?
Yes, so there will be a data release September 20th. Hopefully District R will be updated by then. I will certainly let you know. Unfortunately, I do not control either of these tools. They are controlled by two separate vendors.
Perfect. Thanks, Kristen.
We also have a hand raised by Commissioner Chow.
Yes, good morning. I want to know, there's something called like a bubble map where you can show some areas have larger populations than the smaller, less populated. Let's say my district that I want to represent is short of people, so I need to grab some from the other district. So I can see the bigger bubbles means, if there's more people in that district that I can grab. Is there a way to show like a bubble chart?
So that's a great question. The next tool I'm going to show you will give you a way to look at the population. It doesn't show you that it in bubbles, but it will, you could hover your mouse over each block and it can tell you how many people are there, so that you know before you add it to your district, this block has 1,000 people. So I'll show you that in just a moment.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Kristen.
Are there any other questions on District R at this time? All right. So is there another hand?
No, I don't see any other hands raised.
Thanks, Suki. All right, so jumping into Maptitude, this is the tool that's more advanced. This is the tool that you're going to want to use to draw districts. So the other tool is great for drawing a community of interest. This tool is great for drawing districts. You do have to create a user account, however. So I have one created. I'm going to log in. If you're a new user, you simply click new user and you will set up an account. It's important to also let you know that this tool is available in 6 languages. So you can simply click the language that you'd like to use the tool in, and everything will automatically populate in that language. So logging in, you see first Plan Manager, and this will show you if you have anything you've already created. Most likely you won't for the first time, so you're going to click New Plan. Now, for your new plan, you can start with the existing districts, or you can start with a blank map. I'm going to start today with a blank map. However, if you want to start with the existing districts, you can do that as well. Once members of the public have created maps using this tool, they will show up on this shared tab. So if you wanted to start a new district plan based on someone else's map, and you just want to make some tweaks to it, you could open a shared plan. But there are no shared plans yet. So we're going to start with a blank map. So create, I am going to call it demo 9/11/21. So we know that if I submit it, it is not from the public, it is in fact from me. And when you start here, you see that the entire county is unassigned. The reason for that is because I selected start with a blank map. So that means all of the entire county needs to be assigned to districts. So similar to the other tool, there's a button for zooming in. One of the things you can do with this tool is you can draw a rectangle to zoom in, or you can simply click to zoom in and out. This is the tool to click and drag your map around. And if you want to go back to the initial view, you can click this display initial map button. Okay, just to let you know what's on the screen here, there is a toolbox. This is what you're going to use to actually draw districts. There is a box called changes that will show you as you draw a district, what the population of that district is, how it relates to the ideal value. And again, these numbers are a little bit different than what I showed you. But this again will be updated. No, this is already updated. I'll have to go back and look at that. It's pretty close though. The other thing you'll see on the screen is an options box. The options box shows you basically a legend of what you're looking at on the map. And what I like about these is that you can also look at some of the demographic data. Okay, so I'm zooming in here a little bit to, San Bruno, South San Francisco. And if you click on theme, you can look at some information, some demographic information. So perhaps you want to look at where are the citizen voting age Asian Americans here. Suddenly you see that there is a heat map, and this is the legend here for the heat map. So purple being 0 to 25% Asian American, all the way up to red, which is 75 to 100%. So you can see block by block, that's the smallest level that this data is displayed at, as to where the Asian American community is. Perhaps that is useful to you when you are thinking about your community of interest, or it's something that we might think about for the Voting Rights Act. We can also look at where renters are. The same legend, the same heat map, it's just now we're looking at renters and seeing where they are concentrated. So these are just helpful for viewing the map. We still haven't drawn any districts yet. So let's start doing that. In order to draw the districts, you're going to start with your source, which is what you're going to pull from. Right now, all is fine. Unassigned and all are the same since we haven't assigned anything yet. But oftentimes we're going to want to go with unassigned as our source. Once we have a district in place, we want to make sure that we're creating the next district from the unassigned areas and not from the one we already created. Our target is a new district. Okay, and that's the district we're going to create. And don't worry about this drop down of selection. I'm going to select block because that gives me the smallest granularity for drawing it. But you can use this pointer here if you want to actually select block by block, and you can click each block and it will highlight it. You can see these blocks are getting highlighted. right? This would be an incredibly slow way to do this, but I just want to show you that it's possible. The easier way will be to draw a shape. Okay, so I'm going to draw a rectangular shape. And you're going to draw it by making lines. So there's one line, and then it immediately another line, and then I'm going to close the shape off. Okay. So when I close this shape off, it does its best to pull every census block in that shape into the district. Now, what you can see here is that there are some holes in it. And so that's when we might want to close those holes up by using the pointer tool. Okay, let me hide this changes. So I can click in these holes that fills that in, fill that in. All right, so I've created something. If I look at changes, it tells me I've created a district that's 165,939 people. Okay, that's a little bit larger than our ideal value, but let's go with it. The way that you actually assign this red area to its own district, right, is by clicking the check mark, which means move all of this selection into the district. District ID, I'm going to call this District 1. Okay, I'm going to call it Demo District 1. What's cool about this tool is that automatically it tells us District 1, and it tells us a percentage. That percentage is the percent deviation from the ideal district size. So remember I said that this district, I made it a little bit too big. That's why it's 7.96% overpopulated relative to the ideal district size. So if we want to draw another district, okay, zooming out, maybe we draw this other district, we want to make sure that we're pulling some of District 1 into the next district that we draw. We're going to start with our source, which is unassigned, right? Everything that isn't in District 1. And we're going to say, okay, let's put it in a new district. We can do the exact same thing again. We can draw a shape. And even though I've gone over this District 1, it shouldn't pull it. See, it's only going to select, because I said source unassigned, it's only going to pull the unassigned areas and put them in a new district. Sure. Let's call this District 2. So you can do this all the way until you've created all 5 districts. You can see District 2, wow, is super overpopulated. So maybe I want to give some of District 2's population back to District 1. I can say my source is going to be, my target is going to be District 1, because I want to give some of that population back to it. My source will be District 2. So I'm going to transfer some population from District 2 back into District 1. How am I going to do that? Well, I'm going to draw a shape. Let's pull around Millbrae here. There we go. Selected a big area. Let's give it back to District 1. Wow, look, it does it. So obviously what I'm doing is stuff that you'll never want to do. That's on purpose. Suddenly now we have a District 2 that's non-contiguous, right? Because some of it is over here on the coast and some of it is over here on the bay. And now we've overpopulated District 1. But I'm just showing you the capacity of the tool. And I think this is an incredibly powerful tool. You know, all along the way, you can use this changes box here to see, as you're drawing these districts, what the population is and what some of these demographics are. Keeping in mind that CVAP is the acronym that means Citizen Voting Age Population. So that's only looking at potentially eligible voters. The other thing that's that I want to point out about this tool is that there is an extensive help. And this is very important because the tool is complicated and it's not always intuitive. If you're going to sit down and play with this, you will probably want a couple hours to get up to speed on it, but definitely keep this help sidebar open. It has great step-by-step instructions for you for how to move through using the tool. Perhaps I want to submit this ridiculous map that I've drawn. I can click submit plan. Says, hey, you can't submit it yet. You only made 2 districts. You need to make 5. Darn. So that's another limitation here. I could share it. I don't really want to. I don't want anyone to share it to work off of this map here. You could email it. You could come back to it later. That's part of what happens. Part of why you have a user account on this tool so that you can come back to things later. So there's a lot going on here, even more than I'm showing you right now. But I do want to pause again and take your questions on this tool.
Ms. Parks, I don't see any hands raised from the commissioners. Oh, I do see one now. Mr. Chan?
Yeah, I noticed on smc districtlines.org, there were these instructional YouTube videos. I assume those are English language videos. Is there any possibility that instructional videos in other languages could be created?
Yes, and so right now there are the English language videos and there aren't closed captioning translate. There's not subtitles available in other languages, right? You could use YouTube's auto generate. It wouldn't be perfect. But if that is something that you would like, which is to have those videos translated or simply the subtitles to be reviewed for accuracy, that is something that we can work with you to do.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Commissioner Chow, followed by Commissioner Espinoza.
Yes, Kristen, you mentioned that you're going to show the bubble chart. Did I miss it?
The what? I'm sorry?
The bubble, you say like a bigger bubbles for a larger population, can really dense area versus some that is less dense.
Yes, so we don't have a way for showing bubbles of the population, but let me show you how you can figure that out. So let's zoom in to an area here. And then you can click on this info button. Let's see if it shows you population. So it will show you block by block what the population is. So I'll have to zoom in closer on this probably so you can see. But if you do click the eye icon and you click on a census block, it will show you. I clicked on a block where there's nobody living. Let's find a block where there's someone. Okay, this block has 73 people on it, right? So the other way to see population on here, not using that, is simply when you're creating the district, if you keep that proposed changes box open here, pending changes, it will show you how many people that you are selecting, right? So if I am going to select, and before I actually approve it and say, okay, create that district, I can look and see how many people I'm pulling, right? So perhaps I just want to click a block group. Okay, so let's click into San Carlos here. So this area right here has a population of 1,729.71. So there are ways to see the population, but not in the way that you're requesting, unfortunately.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Commissioner Espinoza?
Thank you. Just going back to Commissioner Chan's question. I was wondering if the live translate is also recorded, because then we could take that and use it as an instructional video in Spanish.
Yeah, does staff know the answer to that question? And you're referring to the translation of today's meeting or the previous meeting?
That's right.
Hi, this is Emma Gonzalez with Office of Community Affairs. We have a live interpreter on the phone. So those that are seeking live interpretation. We don't have that is very good translation.
Is that audio being recorded, Emma?
Only if there is an attendee that is requiring that that interpretation. We have one in Mandarin as well as in Spanish.
Okay, great. So that sounds like something we can circle back on later, because we do have four more of these workshops, if I'm correct. And so hopefully we can get some recorded, translated audio.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Monzon Ruiz.
Yes, thank you. When we draw one district map, do we have to be mindful of the other four as far as the population? So it could be possible. Question 1. 2 is just as an example, in South San Francisco, we have a area what I would consider a community of interest is split between the two supervisors. And I've been hearing from the neighborhood that it would be great to just find a way to have one of the two supervisors that cover that area at least. So I have those two questions.
Thank you. Those are great questions. I'm going to answer your second question first, which is please encourage members of that community to share that opinion and that testimony with the commission. They can do that through drawing a map, or they can do that just in a written or verbal comment. But in terms of drawing just one district, if you're going to draw all 5 districts, use Maptitude. You can use District R quite well to draw one district, just the same way that you're drawing a community of interest. Really, the only difference between a community of interest and an entire district is a community of interest is smaller than an entire district, right? We think of a district as being made up of multiple communities. So you can actually use either the purple or the red button if you just wanted to draw one district. If you just wanted to draw one district, should you be mindful of its size? Absolutely. You should be aiming for that ideal population size. So, you know, this isn't too far off with this ideal 153. So if we're drawing just one district, let's make a larger brush size. Okay. And it automatically will show you that population. So this is probably the easiest tool and the easiest way to just draw one district, because it will show you that population immediately. And that's using District R. We can try to get that population down to something that we want. There, we're pretty close. So I think using District R to do that is a good thing. So I could save this, right? Only thing about saving it through the district one is that it doesn't give you that same opportunity to add the text. So that's why I pretty much encourage everyone who's using District R to click on the red button, because what the red button gives you is I could draw that exact same thing. And instead of calling it a community, I can call it my proposed District 1, and then I can describe it, right? I can say this district unites a community in South San Francisco that is currently divided between 2 districts, right? And then I can draw that one district. So that's how I would suggest doing that.
Thank you. And just to floor clarification, on day one, when it was presented that the vision of this commission, we will not be able to suggest once we receive the census data to suggest one more district. We are here only to remap, change the lines, but not be able to suggest to create one more district to serve better our communities, because we know just from what I've been hearing on our communities is that we're have more population is coming, and to serve better it might be a good idea to have one more district or more, depends what is the outcome. As we know, 5 supervisors, they can only do so much. Just want to make sure that as we progress on these meetings, I have a mindset either will be a possibility because people is asking on the streets, we're going to have one more or 2 more districts, or we are just changing the lines only.
Yeah, and I appreciate you mentioning this because we do want to remind the public that this process is limited in scope to redrawing the 5 districts. And so if there is interest in changing the number of supervisors on the board, that has to occur separately from redistricting process. So that our scope is working with five districts.
And Commissioner, just to reiterate what was said by council a couple meetings ago, is that process would require a charter change, which is something that can happen in the time frame of this district lines process this year.
Thank you.
I was going to say that.
Thank you. I just want to finish by saying that on our advertising, on our approach to the community, we should highlight that, because it's when I got the first email from when I read the first time, that was one of the impressions that I had. So probably a lot of people have the same impression. We should highlight that wherever we have a workshop, that this is the intention, in a bold, in a simple language explanation. I know we are spending a lot of time on the mapping tools, but just to keep it simple, we should highlight that, because people might not have good intention to participate if they're expecting something else. Thank you.
And Commissioner Monson, I think that's a great point, but I also, we encourage all forms of public comment, and if a comment that's rooted in wanting to create an additional supervisor also, is embedded with sort of this idea, because this particular community, should be held together, that's a perfectly valid comment that we'd want to track as well. But appreciate the comment about making sure that our communications are clear about what this process can accomplish. Thank you.
Thank you. That's even better. Thank
you. Commissioner Albert?
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on this discussion that Commissioner Monzon was leading us through, which I think is actually a very interesting one, and I appreciate staff's comments as well. I agree that absolutely our charge is fairly specific, and things like increasing the number of supervisorial districts is not part of our charge, and therefore not something that we can really do. On the other hand, it may be an example, and there may be other examples of, as we go through the process and the commission is struggling with trying to balance all the various priorities here to come up with a set of recommendations, there may be issues that we identify that, while they're outside our charge, that we as a commission think, it would be really useful if somebody else or the Board of Supervisors or whatever considered them. In other words, issues that we struggle with, even when we end up producing a set of recommendations, we may want to highlight in our report, by the way, here are the half a dozen issues that we really struggled with that ought to be addressed in some other way. And something like considering, it's possible that something like considering expanding the number of supervisorial districts would fall in that category.
mean, I don't know because we haven't had the discussion yet of exactly the struggles we're going to have of trying to come up with a recommendation. But I just wanted to pass that along because while we have a charge that we need to fulfill, and we're all committed to doing that. We may want to keep notes on the things that are difficult for us because they may inform future actions of the board. Thank you.
Justin, do you want to talk about the tracking of the public comments and the posting of that info?
Sure, yes. Thanks, Brian, and thanks for all the comments from the commissioners. I think we're about at that stage and we move to the public hearing. And before we do, I just wanted to, introduce myself initially. I realized I haven't done that. Justin Mates, Deputy County Manager. The commissioners, I think I've introduced myself plenty to you, but any members of the public, I wanted to introduce myself. So we're going to be moving to the public hearing component of this meeting today, where the public can submit testimony on this process. And I just wanted to let the public know that through these meetings, through all of the meetings, we will be not only recording these virtual meetings, but we will also be transcribing the public comment and putting it into a matrix that will identify if the speaker so identifies their name and what city they're from and the content of their testimony. And the point of this is to really have all of the public comment in one place that can be reviewed, can look for trends, the commissioners can look at it, other members of the public can look at what's been said, and that will be posted on the District Lines website that was mentioned earlier. It will not be live, it will not be posted sort of immediately, but we will get it up there, particularly after this first set of community meetings over the next 2 weeks. Then we will have that matrix up there and continue to add to it for any additional public comment and testimony we receive. I also wanted to note that this meeting and the next 4 meetings have special focus in terms of testimony from particular communities of existing districts. Today's meeting is with special focus on the communities currently in District 1, which as stated on the agenda include the communities and cities of Burlingame, Hillsborough, Millbrae, San Bruno, South San Francisco, and certain unincorporated communities that are also in current District 1. However, we welcome public comment about any part of the county, as well as from residents of any part of the county. And with that, I'm happy to pass it back to Chair Lawrence to proceed with the public hearing.
Thank you, Justin. Before we proceed, I'd like to ask, are there any other comments from the commissioners before we ask for a motion to open the public hearing?
Chair Lawrence, I do see a hand from Commissioner Chan.
Okay.
Yeah, I just do want to note that the lead time for, as someone who is living in District 1, the lead time for this communicating about this meeting to my my network and my communities was extremely short. So I basically wasn't able to do that at all. I'll probably be able to rustle up some people for subsequent meetings, but just to bear that in mind, that I think, at least for me, like I wasn't able to drive anyone to this meeting today.
Commissioner Chan, thank you for that. And we as we mentioned before, we recognize this is a very tight time frame. There was newspaper ads and other social media and traditional and social media that went out, but completely understand that this is a very, very tight time schedule. And we do appreciate you all as the commissioners to help amplify that message. But yes, I also want to reinforce this is not exclusive. So each, the Board of Supervisors ordered the commission to have a meeting in every district. Of course, that word "in" means something different in the pandemic world we live in now. And so there are themes, but this is not exclusive. So I would encourage anyone from District 1 who wants to make comments or anyone who wants to make comments about the communities in current District 1. Today is not the exclusive opportunity. There are more meetings. There's the next 4 meetings, not to mention every other meeting of the commission thereafter is open for, and the board meetings that happen afterward. These are all valid and appropriate places as well as submitting written comments is also a totally valid form of public testimony, and all of that, as I mentioned, will be compiled into this matrix that will also be available to the commissioners, to the public, and to the Board of Supervisors before any final map is adopted.
And on that, Justin, I'll just add one more small point. As I think was previously indicated, all of these meetings are being recorded. I think we have the recordings ready to go probably by the next business day. So I'm assuming, by Monday or Tuesday, we'll have a recording of this particular meeting, which you all can share with your constituents. To Justin's point, this is kind of the introduction, showing the mapping tool, kind of talking about communities of interest. And then between now and kind of when we, actually draw that final map, we can kind of push out this info and encourage individuals to at least submit written maps or written comments, all of which will be tracked, compiled, and posted in the same manner that Justin described, how we'd be doing it. For example, the comments we received today. So we'll have info for you all to push out, starting next week for the next 2 months or so.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Justin. Just a point of clarification. When you say push out, we'll be able to actually distribute copies of this live recording to our network.
Yeah, we'll have a recording of this particular meeting on the website. So we can, push out the website to folks and they can access it through that. I'm sure Emma may have better ideas as how to actually, do that in different ways, but at the very least, we'll have it on the website. Folks can access that recording.
Excellent. Excellent. Any other comments, questions from the commissioners before we ask for a motion to open the public hearing?
Chair, I don't see any other hands raised.
Then I'll ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
Chair, it's already in the agenda. You don't need a motion.
Okay, great. Well, let's
So we'll take
the
Chair Lawrence, let's take a motion, please. Just to make sure we're
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion to open up a public hearing.
Second.
all in favor? We do a roll call.
Sure, I'll do the roll call. Commissioner Bandrapali is absent. Commissioner Chan,
Yes.
Commissioner Manzan Ruiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Barber is absent. Commissioner Salander,
Yes, sorry.
thank you. Commissioner Bezos is absent. Commissioner Bledsoe is absent. Commissioner Albert,
Yes.
Commissioner Dinan is absent. Commissioner Espinoza,
Aye.
Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Chow,
Aye.
Commissioner Guerrero is absent. Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
thank you. And Chair Lawrence,
Aye.
thank you. Public hearing is now open. And I do want to ask Victor and Cindy to interpret the following instructions to the public in both Spanish and in Mandarin Chinese. For those attending the meeting on the Zoom video conference, we will be using the raise hand feature in order to organize any public comments for item 4. When you hear your name called, I will send you a request to unmute your mic. And once you accept the request, you can begin speaking. I will show a timer for 2 minutes on the screen. Victor, please proceed.
Thank you, Suki. Is my microphone working okay?
Yes, it is.
Perfect. Muy buenas días. Para aquellos que quieren asistir en la reunión en esta videoconferencia de Zoom, utilizaremos lo que es la función de levantar la mano, raise hand, para organizar cualquier comentario del público. Cuando oiga su nombre, le enviaré una solicitud para que usted desactive su micrófono y una vez que usted acepte esa solicitud, podrá empezar a hablar. Se le concederán 2 minutos y se le mostrará un cronógrafo en la pantalla. Thank you. Cindy?
大家好，在等一下公众发问的环节，我们将采取举手发言的方式。当您的名字被叫到以后，请按提示将麦克风打开，并开始讲话。您将有2分钟的时间讲话。谢谢。
Thank you both. Members of the public, now is the time to raise your hand for item number 4. We'll allow maybe 10 to 15 seconds. Okay, I don't see any hand raised. Chair Lawrence, can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Is there a motion to close public hearing?
Move to close the public hearing.
Seconded.
Thank you.
Roll call.
Roll call. Commissioner Badra is absent. Commissioner Chan,
Yes.
Commissioner Monzon Ruiz,
Yes.
Commissioner Barber is absent. Commissioner Salander,
Yes.
Commissioner Azos is absent. Commissioner Bledsoe is absent. Commissioner Albert,
Aye.
Commissioner Dinan is absent. Commissioner Espinoza.
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis,
Aye.
Commissioner Chow,
Hi.
Commissioner Guerrero is absent. Commissioner Romero,
Yes.
and Chair Lawrence.
Aye.
Sure. Public hearing is now closed.
Well, it's certainly sad that we didn't have any members of the public, so I would encourage us all to try to push out to our districts and our networks to see if we can get as much public comment as possible. But I do understand that it was a short notice. With that, I'll ask for the next meeting is Monday, September 13th. So we never have a short turnaround time frame for our next meeting. I don't know if we can do any better, but we certainly give it a good try. With that, I'll ask for, I don't do a motion to adjourn, do I?
We do have two commissioners that have their hand raised. I'm sorry, Mr. Chow, go ahead.
Yes, I'm just curious. Sometimes we don't get to get the agendas on time because we're also busy. I wonder, is it possible to have the agenda posted on the site and they could click it? Because I know some people want to view everybody's online, but if there's a ability to click the agenda right in front on this video, this seminar, it'll be helpful. So they know what item was being taught.
So
Commissioner Chow, do you need to have a copy of the agenda kind of on the Zoom screen as we're proceeding?
Oh,
your question? Sorry, I just want to clarify, was that your request?
Yeah, I was thinking having the agenda right in front when we were talking about it. Say, okay, we're on the agenda item number 4, so the public also can see right on the Zoom meeting.
Like Mr. Clerk, would you be able to share your screen as we kind of discuss that item? Okay.
Definitely, yes, I can share that. Share my screen with it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure. And for the record, commissioners, we do have members of the public, joining this meeting. I believe there's 7. So they just didn't participate. So just want to make that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. And then also, Chair, I believe Vice Chair Romero probably had some remarks to make.
Yes, just really briefly before we adjourn, I just wanted to take some time, as you guys know, today is 20 years after the 9/11 attacks. It's a day of remembrance and reflection, and a day many of us will never forget. And I just wanted to acknowledge that many of our fellow San Mateo County residents are reflecting on the events that forever changed our country. And so if we can take a minute of silence to remember the almost 3,000 lives we lost, and to honor all those heroes who risked their lives.
Certainly we will do that. Let's take a moment to do that. Thank you. With that, any other comments from the commissioners before we adjourn? Seeing none, I'll declare the meeting adjourned. Thank you. See you Monday night.
Thank you. Have a good weekend. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Chair Lawrence. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. The time is now 10:15 a.m. and the meeting is off the record. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you.
Bye, Suki. Thank you.
Thank you.